Hello, my name's Derek Bailey. For those who don't know me, I've been a wood turner now for over 40 years, well 41, and taught for about 8 of them. For some reason my granddaughter contacted me and she'd like me to make her a wooden ladle to use for noodles or something. So I've never made one before, so I looked on the internet, see how they did it, and there's a guy. I'll put a link at the end of this video. There's a guy who shows you quite good how to do it using a jam chuck that you make, and to hold the spoon in or the ladle in while you turn the insides of it. Well, I tried it and it's okay, it was satisfactory, and I wasn't as good as the guy who demonstrates it. Obviously it was my first showing, and I needed to do special things for it to work. I had to tape the handle to the jam chuck to stop it moving. So I thought of an alternative way of doing it, and a modicum of success. It's like anything else, the more you do it the better you get at it, but the end result was these two things. Anyway, that's enough waffling, let's get on. I've chosen mahogany for this project. It's a very durable timber and hopefully will last. There's quite a lot of videos on the internet showing you how to make ladles and spoons from one solid piece of timber. But it involves making a jam chuck, as you can see in what I'm using here. And unless you get the fit perfectly, you've got to tape up the handle to the jam chuck so it doesn't move in any direction. It doesn't clamp properly unless you get a really good fit when you bore out the jam chuck. So, as you can see from what I've done, I didn't quite get the sphere right when I was turning it between centres, and you can see it, this section, as I've reduced the thickness of it, you can see that there's an unevenness of thickness, and I want to avoid that. So, unless you do a lot of them and you get used to it and you train your eye to see a near perfect sphere when you're turning, I'd like to try a different method, and that's removing 2 jaws from a 4-jaw chuck and using that to hold the wood as I bore it out. You'll find how I go on later on with some modicum of failures, but we'll see how it develops. As you can see, I've marked out a cube where the bowl of the ladle is going to go. The advantage of 2 jaws in the chuck, it automatically centres the thickness of the wood. So all I have to do is make sure I put the dimple using the revolving centre in the centre of the cube itself. On marking the centres of each end of the wood, I noticed a crack or a split. I'm thinking here that I can just get away with turning it out, so it should be okay. Here I'm marking all 4 sides of the square, so that when I set the lathe on I can see the lines revolving. I'll just put it on one face, I probably won't be able to see it. I was hoping I could turn out the split, but it's still there, so I'm going to have to resort to a repair. Well, I've come this far, let's hope this super glue works. That's the trouble with prototypes, there's certain things you wish you hadn't done, and I think I've made the shaft of the spoon a little bit too thin for the next procedures. I haven't chosen a Forstner bit for the full size of the bore of the ladle. I want to create a curved surface. If I just use the bigger size I could, it would make a right mess. So I've just removed most of the material, so I'll only have to really clean up and create a nice curve on the inside with a spindle gouge or ball gouge. I'm cleaning up the face of the ladle now to just slightly below the shaft, the handle of the ladle. The reason I'm doing that is because aesthetically it looks okay, and it's the maximum diameter really you can get. When I was cleaning up the face here, I extended it into the handle itself. I don't know why I did that, I don't know what was in my mind at the time. Anyway, it came back to bite me later on. What I should have done earlier, I should have actually measured the dimensions of the cube part of the ladle so that I knew how deep to go with the boring. But I was just guessing it here, and that can sometimes come back on you. I do like these spring-loaded stab centres. It's great to relocate back to running true, and they're very forgiving of catches because they don't penetrate the timber too much, yet give enough grip for decent turning. was here that I started to feel there was something just not quite right about the turning. Through experience, you can tell the wood's not coming off quite as well, and I just thought it was the flexing. The shaft was too small a diameter. But actually, it was a crack that I hadn't noticed. My intuition was correct. Unfortunately, the wood I selected just was riddled with cracks, must have been, and that big crack right at the beginning should have been a warning to me. Anyway, onwards and upwards. This time I've took the bulk of the wood off with the bandsaw. Didn't see much point in turning wood away when I could just rip it off quite quick with the bandsaw. All I have to do now is to make everything round. Similar to what I did before, I'm just repositioning the cube part of the ladle that goes in the jaws and make sure it's central in both directions, vertically and horizontally. Again, my impatience doesn't come back to bite me, but makes the job hard. If I'd have measured the cube and then allow for the wall thickness and use the point of the Forstner bit to determine the depth. I'm not using a full-size Forstner bit for the hole I'm boring. Just as a guide, I can clean up the rest here and use the dimple created by the point of the Forstner as a depth guide, so when I get rid of that pimple I'm at the correct depth and the correct wall thickness. This is standard procedures, yet I failed to do it. Because this is the first attempt at this method of making ladles, I keep re-emphasising the diameters of the bore and the outside diameter of the ladle itself. I keep doing that just as a precautionary measure. If I was doing a lot of them, then I'd know where I could take shortcuts and just get on with it. But when it's a prototype, you tend to be more methodical and careful as you remove wood. Because I was more conscious of the camera and me obstructing the view of it, I was in a bad body position when I was boring out here, so you could see a catch. Luckily I got away with it, so I decided to move, which is great about this lathe. It has it has the headstock can be rotated, so I got it in a more convenient position and yet was still in full view of the camera. Now I've got it to the size I want, I can just use a round, half round scraper here just to finish off the tool marks, etc. For obvious reasons this is a dangerous procedure, so I'm making sure I'm holding the sandpaper with both hands and one hand holding the other hand, restricting forward movement, so I'm in more control. I'm realigning the headstock and tailstock here. Even though the headstock has a stop on it, it's not completely accurate, there is a little bit of play, so I'm actually using the kiss test of the two centres to make sure it's dead centre. Because I'd already bored out the cube previously, the cube part of the ladle, I can use now that bore as a guide for doing the outside of it, so I can keep a constant wall thickness, and it helps me as I progress. If I'd have used the jam chuck method, having to make a chuck, which I showed previously, you've got to get that sphere just right. Well, here I can use the hole as a guide to creating the sphere, although I didn't do it very well. One thing I didn't consider when I'm using this method is the intermittent cutting and how it can affect your control of the tool. You do get a bit of bounce, so you cannot put as much pressure on the bevel of the tool to allow you to get a constant cut. It's more for feel, so your actual touching of the wood is very light. So you're nearly scraping, not quite, you're still cutting perfectly well, but the pressure is so light you can't rely on the bevel as a guide anymore. So it's a bit more difficult to do a nice even cut in the direction you're going, and that proved to be the truth later on, as the wall thickness was very thin as it blended with the stem or the handle of the ladle. Because I'd left enough wood on the handle, it was quite strong enough to put in the jaws of the chuck and just be held by the chuck alone, which was an ideal situation to clean up the sphere part of the ladle. But I could have done that right at the beginning, and I didn't need to put it between centres, but like I say, prototypes, you don't always think of everything. As you can see, the bowl part of the ladle where it meets the handle is very thin, and I've had a chip out, and I was very disappointed in this, and then I thought, well, why not make a feature of it? I copied the split, or the missing piece, on the other side so it looked like a feature. Sometimes things can work for you. Well, I'll go and take it to my granddaughter now and see if she likes it, and hope it lasts.